सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतं गमय। ओम शांति शांति शांति। Dear Sri A.K. Patel Sahab, other senior officers of JNFC, staff members, dear friends, I am very happy to meet you this afternoon. At the outset, I would like to apologize for the infection in throat, because of which the voice may not be as desirable as you would like to have. As Mr. Patel said, I am suffering from fever, and of course it may not be 104 as I told, because then I not possible, but there was some feverish feeling and also very bad throat and cold and cough. But with that, I thought that from a long time Mr. Tiwari ji was insisting that we must have a program. In fact, when he was in the tribal development department, that time we also chalked out certain programs which we have gone ahead, but without his absence it may not be that effective, but still we have started. But he took the initiative. So as soon as he came here to JNFC, the first thing he did was to contact me. But it took some time for us to finalize these programs. In fact, tomorrow I have to leave very quickly, and we were wondering whether we could postpone the program till January. But somehow or the other, I am here. I am very happy that it has materialized with all those so many other factors coming into play. So the topic, as you know, has been kept is management leadership, the fourth wave. Now, gradually this fourth wave of management leadership is coming. Can you increase the volume a little? Volume. So, as you know, the fourth wave is coming in the field of management. The first wave in the field of management, as you know, was the British style of management, when method study, work measurement were in vogue. Taylor's method of work measurement was in vogue. The second style of management was the American style of management, when Peter Drucker became the guru of all. The third wave of management was the Japanese style of management, when TQM, total quality management, zero defect, all of them became in vogue. And now slowly but steadily, the fourth wave is coming in the field of management. And that is the holistic style of management based on Indian ethos, the holistic style of management. And why? There are so many reasons. Number one, globalization. Globalization has come to stay, whether you like it or not, at least on economic front. And so most of the companies are now compelled to go for competitive spirit, because it's an open market. It's no longer a seller's market, it is now a buyer's market. Customer has become the king. You have to worship the Grahak Narayana. Customer is become the king. And so if you do not deliver the goods of proper quality, excellent quality, at competitive price, you will be out of the market. It's a very competitive spirit that has come in globalization. So either you perform or you perish. There is no third alternative. And that is why productivity has become a necessity now. And what was preached in the Bhagavad Gita, Yoga Karma Sukhoshana, Buddhi Yukta Jahatiha, Ube Sukrit Dushrute, Tasmat Yogaya Yujjasva, Yoga Karma Sukhoshana. Dexterity in action, efficiency in action is yoga. And yoga leads to perfection. that perfection in work is very much stressed in the Bhagavad Gita, in our Upanishads, in the scriptures. Now you have to have perfection in work. If the work has to be converted into worship, it must be an excellent work. What type of fruits do you offer to God? Rotten fruits or the fresh fruits? Even if you are not able to afford good quality fruits for your family members, at least whatever you offer to the deity, to God, small fruit, but it has got to be excellent fruit, fresh fruit. Similarly, if we want to convert work into worship, what type of work we are going to offer to the Lord? The best possible work, excellent work. And that is how the Karma Yoga spirit of Bhagavad Gita is penetrating into the psyche of the modern managers gradually, and that is how the fourth wave is coming. And because of automation, previously only 17% companies, or previously only 17% were white collar jobs and rest were blue collar jobs. Now the situation is different. It is reverse. Now the job of the blue collar jobs is being done by the computers. Some of the companies, there are only 2 persons working as blue collar job. Rest all are executives, white collar jobs. 2 persons. One, watchman, open the gate. And second, the computer operator. Rest all are executives. Automation has come. Now, you cannot control the white collar job people as you are controlling the blue collar jobs. Because it is a knowledge society now. The 21st century is the century of knowledge society. Knowledge workers. And now you cannot control the knowledge workers as you are controlling the labor force. That is why the management leadership quality has to be different. The management strategies have to be different. So Peter Drucker says in his book, Managing in the Next Millennium, he says beautifully, managers and executives from now onwards are going to be more and more ineffectual because of having no control or authority over their subordinates. That we can see very well. We do not have control over subordinates. We are not able to control because sometimes the juniors are more competent in computers, in other methods, and that is how they are not able to control. So managers and executives from now onwards are going to be more and more effective, more and more ineffective, with no authority whatsoever over their subordinates. So the old methods of leadership will not go. Old methods of hire and fire method will not do. Old methods of leadership will not do. So what type of leadership will go? Servant leadership. John Greenleaf of United States started this concept of servant leadership. But for us in India it is not new. Sri Krishna practiced it 5,000 years back when he became a charioteer. What is servant leadership? Servant leadership is the leader leads by example, by demonstration. He does not sit on a high chair and just orders, but he tells, he shows it by his action with love and affection and concern. He guides the people. He demonstrates. When the credit comes to a job, he says he shares that credit with, he shares that prize, he shares that honor with all the colleagues. And when there is a discredit, he takes the blame upon himself. That is servant leadership. Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, when he came to Porbandar on 13th February 2002, to inaugurate one of the T1 school buildings constructed by Ramakrishna Mission as a part of earthquake rehabilitation project in Porbandar, he gave a talk to 3,000 people, 3,000 students after that inaugurating that school. And he said beautifully, then he was asked what is the source of his inspiration. He smiling, he said, and I normally do not leak out this secret. But this is the right place to leak out this secret. And then he said, I was in 9th standard. I was the monitor of my school. The headmaster called me and said, tonight, you have to call all the students to the school. Let them listen to the running commentary. That time, no TV, you know. It was 15th August 1947. India will become independent at midnight. Let all the students listen to the running commentary. So he said, I brought all the children, all the students, and we all listened to the running commentary. Of course, we did not know Hindi or English. We knew only Tamil. So we could not understand the speeches given. But we were very, very happy that India has become independent. Then he said, next day, in the newspapers, I saw 2 photographs. One photograph showing Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru hoisting the Indian flag on the Red Fort. He said, I was very happy to see that. By the side, the second photograph. And he said, that second photograph was my primary education, was my secondary education, was my college education, and was my life education. And what was that photograph? That photograph was showing when the whole country was rejoicing because of the independence that was gained. The person who singularly made it possible for us to get independence, the person who sacrifices maximum for that, who worked maximum for that, that person was not rejoicing. What was he doing? He was walking barefooted in the streets of Calcutta, wiping the tears of the people who were affected by Noakhali riots. Mahatma Gandhi. Then he said, I was very much impressed. That is servant leadership. That is the nobility of leadership. Had he wanted, he would have become the Prime Minister of India. But he did not take any power or position. While sacrificing, he was first. While receiving the reward, he was the last. Unlike the modern leaders, while sacrificing, last. For getting the chair, first. Fighting over the chair for power and position. But Mahatma Gandhi did not go for that. He was the last to rejoice, last to take up the benefit of that independence, last to take up any power or position or name and fame. And that is servant leadership. Mahatma Gandhi practiced it. Swami Vivekananda practiced it. Today, all over the world, 150th birth anniversary of Swami Vivekananda is being celebrated. And it is celebrated in much more grander manner than the centenary of celebration of Swami Vivekananda in 1963. And I am sure the 200th celebration will be much grander. Because we are still too near the history. L. Basham, one of the greatest historians of our time, says that it is very difficult to evaluate the importance of Swami Vivekananda on the scale of history because we are too near the history. But the future generations will be able to evaluate him better. As the days are going, he is becoming more and more prominent, more and more relevant. His message is so relevant, even after 150 years, and it will be more relevant after 200 years. Because he was a visionary, he could visualize the questions, the problems of the modern society, the civilization that is going to usher in. That is why L. Basham says we will not be able to catch his greatness. Normally what happens? When a person dies, the institution that he started also dies. But Swami Vivekananda started Ramakrishna Mission in 1897 in order to give practical shape to the teachings of his Guru Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa of worshipping the divine in human beings in 1897. When he passed away, when he entered into Mahasamadhi, deep meditation, which was an eternal meditation, on 4th July 1902, only at the age of 39 years, he passed away. At that time, there were only 5 centers in India and 1 center in New York. And now, after 150 years of his advent, or say after 111 years of his starting the Ramakrishna Mission, 114 years of starting the Ramakrishna Mission, at present we have 174 branch centers all over the world. 30 abroad, rest in India, 4 in Gujarat, Rajkot, Limdi, Porbandar and Vadodara. The historic Dilar of Bangla, in which Swami Vivekananda himself stayed as the guest of the Dain Diwan Manibhai Chashbai, was handed over to the Ramakrishna Mission by the government of Gujarat for converting to befitting memory of Swami Vivekananda. Many activities have been started. You have been given a brochure. Please go through it. You will come to know. And when you go to Baroda, it's just near railway station opposite Circuit House, please visit it. 4 centers in Gujarat, total 173 centers all over the world. Apart from that, more than 1,000 centers which are not directly run by us but run by our devotees. But there are no monks staying there. But our devotees, householder devotees are running it. And we are trying to start one such center. There are 20 centers in Gujarat. We are trying to start one such center in Bharuch. And with the cooperation and support from GNFC, it may materialize soon, maybe in a month or so. Mr. Tiwari is very enthusiastic and he is very cooperative. So we may have a center in Bharuch, Ramakrishna Vivekananda Center, very soon, which will be run by our devotees and friends. And we will have a functional linkage with the Vadodara Center of Ramakrishna Mission. But you just imagine, the centers are growing and growing, and not only the number of centers are growing, every center is growing. 12 indoor hospitals, 70 outdoor dispensaries, 60 mobile dispensaries, 1 lakh, 1 crore of patients are treated free of cost every year. So many eye camps, education institutions, 6,000 education institutions where 6 lakh students are studying, tribal and rural development project, so much of work, expansion. Mind you, after the giving up the body by Swami Vivekananda, it is growing and growing and growing. Unlike in other places, when the leaders go, the institution go. They are closed. Here is a different thing. And perhaps the obituary note is the final press note release about that person. Sometimes. But here, he is growing more and more popular. Swami Vivekananda is becoming more and more known. That is servant leadership. That is, he did not take any credit for himself. He put the organization in the name of his Guru, Ramakrishna, not Vivekananda Mission. He made it Ramakrishna Mission. And he did not become the first president. He did not take any power or position. He said, if my Guru Bhais tell me to clean the latrines, my job will be to clean the latrines. That is all I will take up. Was ready for that. Whatever small money that he received by giving lectures, so many lectures per day, he had to work very hard. That's why at the age of 39 years, the instrument became unusable, this body. So much he worked hard. So, whatever little money he brought, he gave it to his Guru Bhai, Swami Brahmanand. Made him the first president of Ramakrishna Math Mission, Swami Brahmanand. He was not the first president. That is servant leadership. That servant leadership is now important for us because now the old style of management will not work. The old style of leadership will not work. You have been given one card in which Swami Vivekananda's ideas on leadership are there. How relevant they are. Now in America that servant leadership is important, but he is telling from 1976 and now that is becoming popular in America and other countries. But in our country, we had been preaching and practicing it since long. Mahatma Gandhi, Swami Vivekananda, Bhagwan Shri Krishna himself practicing servant leadership. Another thing that is happening is stress management is becoming very important all over the world. Everybody is under tension. That is why today we are going to talk more about stress management, how to get peace of mind. All of you must come there, how to get happiness and peace, how to get happiness and harmony and peace in the family, how to bridge the gap between the generation gap between parents and children. There are a lot of problems. Today, this morning, we had talks with the students, 1,500 students. I was talking to them. There were so many questions. There are a lot of questions, a lot of problems. They are also under tension. So just as parents have got some problems, the children have got their own problems. So we have to see from their perspective all the problems. So today night we are going to discuss in the evening 6:30 in the amphitheater this how to get harmony, peace in family, in individual life, happiness and peace. So that will be evening talk. But that is becoming very important all over the world. Last year I went to America. Out of 12 talks, 6 talks were on how to get happiness and peace, on managing stress. The earlier when I went to Europe, everywhere they wanted the same topic, how to get happiness and peace, how to manage stress. These are all the common problems, common things that they want. Everybody is under tension, more or less. Now, when we are talking about stress management, the Western style of management, stress management is not working. That is why the 4th wave of management is coming, that is Indian style of management. Why? Mostly because stress management. What is the Western method of stress management? Western psychology, they say, why the stress comes? When you conceal a feeling in your subconscious mind, when you do not express your feelings, they go into your subconscious mind and then they become complex. Then once you are suppressing it, it becomes strenuous for them. Then the stress is converted into strain and gradually you become a prey of stress management. Stress. So what is the solution? You express your feelings. My God, if I express my feelings, then I will lose my job. Maybe the boss comes to the office. Just when he was coming out from his house, his wife gave a good dose. Now, he cannot tell anything to the wife because then she will go to her home and then no cooking. So what to do? He has pocketed the insult, but inside he is burning. So whatever anger was there, he puts on his subordinate after coming. Without any reason, he is just going on fighting his subordinate. Now the subordinate junior, he wants to pay back in the same coin and he knows also how to pay back. But he keeps silent because otherwise he will lose job. So though that insult, unjustified insult, goes inside the subconscious mind and that creates problem. So the psychologist says, no, you must ventilate your feelings, otherwise there will be stress. My God, if I ventilate my feelings, I will lose my job. The psychologist says, don't worry, we have got solution. Go to the market and purchase voodoo dolls. Voodoo dolls are available, and along with that pills are available. Come back to your house, close the doors and windows of your room, put the voodoo doll on your table, and then write down the name of the person on whom you want to ventilate your feelings. About whom? Maybe the name of your boss, name of your mother-in-law, whomsoever, the name of your wife, whomsoever you want to put, whatever you could not do there, you do it now. And then there are 3 pins available. Black pins for injury, blue pins for serious injury, and red pins are also available to murder. And just give a red pin and your boss is murdered. And so happy you will become, you will have a nice sleep without any tranquilizer. But the difficulty is that next day morning again the boss is sitting on the same chair and again the same thing. At night you murdered that boss, but in the morning again he is sitting. What to do? So voodoo dolls, punching bags, head diaries, all these are not working. Western styles of management. Now that is why they are coming at the feet of yoga and meditation. If you want to have a long-term solution to stress management, you have to have practice yoga. Not only that yoga that is physical exercise, but 4 yogas, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Raj Yoga, Karma Yoga, combination of those 4 yogas, meditation. These are the methods that are working. And that is why the 4th wave is coming, Indian style of management, Indian style of stress management. Another thing that has come is SQ. IQ, we know everything. If we want to have success, we must have IQ. But Daniel Goleman said, IQ is not enough, we must have EQ. What is EQ? Emotional intelligence. In 1991 he said emotional intelligence is more important than IQ. And the latest discovery of the modern science is SQ. Dana Zohar, she is a professor in Oxford University, has written a book. The name of the book is SQ, Spiritual Intelligence, the Ultimate Intelligence, where she says neurologically, physiologically, biologically, psychologically, from every point of view there is a conflicting evidence. There is something called SQ, which is the basis of both IQ and EQ. What is IQ? Intelligence quotient. IQ will tell you how to play the game of life. What is EQ? Emotional quotient. EQ will tell you how to play the game of life under changed circumstances with changed strategies. And what is SQ? SQ will tell you whether to play the game of life at all or not. Well, that is your choice. What is the meaning of life? What is the purpose of life? Why we have come to this world? Where are we going to go? Why there is something called death? All these basic existential problems that can be decided only by SQ. So if you want to have success in life, you must have IQ, EQ and SQ. And when we are talking about spiritual quotient, when talking about spiritual intelligence, it is the Indian scriptures which gives very elaborate treatment on how to develop this SQ. And that is why Indian style of management is becoming important. Another reason, communication technology advanced very much. The whole world has become united as never before because of internet, cyberspace, mobile, ISD, STD, and all that. So whole world is one. Physically it has become one, but not mentally. But according to Vedanta, the whole world is permeated by one universal consciousness. Now the modern science also, modern quantum mechanics, has also proved what was told in Vedanta, ekam sad vipra bahuda vadanti. What was told that sarvam khalu idam brahma, that has been verified experimentally by David Bohm. The Bell's theorem says that all the particles of the whole universe are integrated at deeper level. David Bohm, the Nobel Prize physicist, has already proved it experimentally. And that is why another Nobel Prize physicist, Schrodinger, Erwin Schrodinger, says, consciousness is a singular of which the plural is unknown. One universal consciousness spreading everywhere. That is modern quantum mechanics. And that is why A.M.R. Thiessen, the Amsterdam-based management expert, says that our science and technology have undergone tremendous transformation. Our theories of modern quantum mechanics have changed drastically, but our management theories have remained stagnant, have remained the same. We must have a paradigm shift. We must adopt the holistic paradigm. It is a holistic universe, the modern science says, and we must adopt the holistic paradigm. We must have a paradigm shift, and if we do not have a paradigm shift and do not adopt the holistic paradigm, we will have paradigm paralysis. We have to be prepared for paradigm paralysis. So we must have a paradigm shift. A holistic paradigm that is based on Vedanta, the philosophy of Vedanta, where it says all is one. Another thing is that the gap between haves and have-nots is increasing. On the one hand, the list of billionaires is increasing. On the other hand, the number of poor people are also increasing. Why this paradox? Because we are not practicing trusteeship management, which was advocated by Swami Vivekananda. For the first time in the world history, in the corporate sector, it was first applied by Swami Vivekananda. Of course, afterwards Mahatma Gandhi practiced it. Azim Premji was interviewed by India Today. What is the secret of his success? He said, I believe that trusteeship management principle is very, very important. And you know, recently he has already announced a lot of big amount of money for educational transformation of the country. Trusteeship management, that is already the principle of trusteeship management is there in our Upanishads. Isha Vasya Upanishad says, Isha Vasya Vidam Sarvam Yatkincha Jagatyam Jagat Tena Tyaktena Bhunjitha Ma Grida Kasasiddhanam. The whole world is permeated by one universal consciousness. It is one. You and I are not different. What follows? Isha Vasya Vidam Sarvam Yatkincha Jagatyam Jagat Tena Tyaktena Bhunjitha. Therefore enjoy the world. How? By renouncing. By renouncing, if I give up the world, how can I enjoy it? You do not have to renounce your Mercedes-Benz car. You do not have to renounce your car, your mobile, your house, your clothes. No. What you have to renounce? You have to renounce your attachment. Attachment. You have to renounce your selfishness. You have to renounce your ego and enjoy the whole world. Tena taktena bhujitha ma grida kasasiddham. Do not covet others' wealth. Why? Because you and the person from whom you are going to cheat are not different. Don't cheat yourself. If you are a managing director and you are sleeping on the 7th floor with Dunlop pillow, and if you have exploited your worker who is without food, sleeping on the footpath without food, you will not be able to get sleep with any number of tranquilizers, even sleeping on the Dunlop pillow, as long as that person does not get sleep. That is the holistic paradigm. Because you and he are not different. The person whom you have cheated and you are not different. So what we should do? Trusteeship management. Particularly the rich persons. Trusteeship management. When Swami Vivekananda went there, in America, as you know, he delivered his historic speech on 11th September 1893 in the world's parliament religions held in Chicago. That was also 9/11. But we did not pay any heed to his message, so there was another 9/11. After exactly 108 years, the World Tower broke. That was also 9/11. Why it broke? Because of we did not take up the message of Swami Vivekananda of harmony of religions. He had already warned sectarism, bigotry, and its horribleness and fanaticism have long possessed this beautiful earth and tainted often and often with blood and brought so much of destruction. Had it not been for this, our civilization would have been far much better than this. But their time has come, and I fervently pray that the bell that told this morning the honor of this convention may be the death knell of all sorts of fanaticism, of all sorts of dogmatism, of all sorts of persecution, whether with the sword, with the pain in the name of religion. But that we did not do, and that is why another 9/11. Whatever it is, when Swami Vivekananda went to America, he stayed on for 4 more years in America, preaching the message of Vedanta, giving the nectar of Vedanta. At that time, the richest person of the world was John D. Rockefeller, the emperor of petroleum industry. At that time, he was very unhappy with his life and he was contemplating suicide. One of his friends suggested, why don't you come to meet an Indian yogi who is putting up with my friend. By talking with him, you will get much peace of mind. By getting his advice, you will get peace of mind. Rockefeller said, what? I have to go to a beggar for getting advice? You know, we are all beggars. We are all professional beggars. We are living on charity, on donations, so we are all beggars. We are monks. We do not earn. In the sense, we do not have any salary. We may be working, but we are working unselfishly. We do not have our own bank account, or we do not have any salary or anything. So we are all beggars. So Rockefeller said, what? I have to go to a beggar for getting advice? No, I will not go. And he did not go. But one fine morning, suddenly, he came to the place of residence and called the bell. The butler opened the door. He entered inside without being announced. Swamiji was at that time not in his drawing room. He was in his study room. He went inside the bedroom. But Swamiji, you know, he had tremendous power of concentration. Today I talked to the students about how much concentration Swami Vivekananda used to have and how to get concentration of mind, which is the secret of success in every sphere of life. So Swamiji was so absorbed, he did not notice Rockefeller coming. He was very much absorbed in studying. And Rockefeller just knocked at the table, then Swamiji looked up. Rockefeller said, I am Rockefeller. Swamiji was sitting there and he asked, what do you want? No, Rockefeller was not prepared for this type of treatment. Rockefeller means the President of America would get up, and here is the person asking, what do you want? He was very much agitated. He said, I don't want anything. Then Swamiji said, then why have you come? Now what would he reply? Because he had come without invitation. And then Swamiji said, my dear Rockefeller, I know why you come. You come here because you do not have peace of mind. And then he started narrating many incidents from the life of Swami Vivek, from the life of Rockefeller, which no one else knew except Rockefeller. And then he became very much perplexed, very much perplexed. How do you come to know? How did you come to know all those things? Who has told all these things? Swamiji smiled and said, do you think it is necessary somebody should tell me? I can see through your mind as I can see through a glass almirah. And then Rockefeller was very much taken aback, because this fellow has come to know all my secrets. Then Swamiji said, Rockefeller, please remember, you are not the owner of your wealth. You are only custodian of your wealth. Utilize this money for removing the sufferings of millions of people. Immediately you will get peace of mind. There is no other way by which you can get peace of mind. Rockefeller was not prepared to take anybody's advice, least of all from a beggar. So he became very much annoyed and he left abruptly, as abruptly he had left. He had come. He left abruptly. After a few days, again he came. Similar fashion, called the bell. The butler opened the door, he went inside. Swamiji was not in his drawing room, he came to study room. And then again Swamiji was fully absorbed. Again, he knocked at the table. Then Swamiji looked up. Then Rockefeller put a piece of paper in which he had made an announcement of a very huge donation for a public cause. When Swamiji was reading it, Rockefeller said, "Now you must thank me. I have followed your advice." Swamiji said, "Well, it is for you to thank me. Because by following my advice, you will get peace of mind which cannot be purchased by millions of dollars in the market." And then afterwards, as you know, Rockefeller started Rockefeller Foundation, through which so many Nobel Prize winning discoveries have been made. And Rockefeller wrote afterwards in the autobiography, there is more than earning in life, and the purpose of life is to serve others. I do not know whether he used the name of Vivekananda or not, but this is what he learned from his life: serving others, living for others. These are the ideas that Rockefeller has given his autobiography. This is the principle of trusteeship management, which is very relevant today when we have so many billionaires on one side and so many poor people on the other side. If these billionaires utilize this money for removing sufferings of millions of people, they will also get peace of mind, and these people's poverty will be removed. It is double-edged sword. You remove poverty and remove the stress in your mind. On the one hand, people are suffering because of over money, excess money. Other people are suffering because of lack of money. Joined together, both of them. One is suffering because of lack of money. Yes, you know, Oxford Dictionary has now added one more word. The name of that word is affluenza. Not influenza. Influenza we get it also. I think I have got influenza. But this is not influenza, this is affluenza. It comes to affluent people. And in America, the parents have started affluenza resistant society, protect their children from affluenza. These rich children, they get more and more dissatisfied. The more they get, the more they get dissatisfied. They become prey of Lugin neurosis, and then they become very unhappy. Then they become schizophrenic, and gradually they commit suicide. So in order to protect the children, they have started affluenza resistant society. In India also affluenza has come. 10% of the people are suffering from influenza, and 40% are below poverty line. Why not join together? These people suffering from influenza, they can utilize some money for the service projects, and that will remove the poverty of the people. In turn, these people who are not having peace of mind will get peace of mind. This is trusteeship management that was advocated by Swami Vivekananda, which is so relevant today. This fourth wave of management. There are so many areas that are coming. Only I will touch only the last topic. There are so many areas, but our time is coming to an end, so I will just touch on one subject. That is the power of ethical management. Norman Vincent Peale and Kenneth Blanchard, the management expert, have jointly written a book. The name of the book is The Power of Ethical Management. And in the heading itself, they say, you need not cheat in order to win. Ethical management is becoming very important. Previously, it was thought the more you can cheat, the more quickly you can become a billionaire or billionaire. But now those days are gone. No longer, you cannot cheat all the people all the time. You can cheat a few people for some time, then you will be found out. Particularly in the time when there is a globalization has come, and it's open market. China is there, the dragon is there to devour you. If you do not perform, you will be perished. China is there to devour you. The dragon is there to devour you. They will supply at lower price with high quality. Where will you go? So you have to perform or perish. Now, that is the background. In that background, the integrity plays a very important role. In the morning, one student asked, is honesty the best policy under all circumstances? And one student asked, should we be honest, or should we tell the truth all the time, or should we also tell untruth? These are the questions that are coming in the minds of the young people. They have started feeling that honesty is not the best policy. Dishonesty will bring very quick success. You know, this is a wrong conception. Because, of course, it may bring success, quick success, but ultimately you will end up in jail. Where is Raja and Rani? I do not know. Rani has got some bail, but Raja, I do not know whether he got the bail or not. Raja, Rani, they are all in the Tihar jail. He said, yes, you get some success for some time, you can enjoy, you cannot get. So, the power of ethical management says, you need not cheat in order to win. Integrity pays, honesty pays, and there is a beautiful paragraph that to work only for profit is like playing tennis with your eyes on the scoreboard rather than on the ball. To work only for profit is like playing tennis with your eyes on the scoreboard rather than on the ball. Similarly, when you do business, you have to go for integrity. The customer has become the king. As I told you, Grahak Narayana. All these new concepts are coming. This is the fourth way of management, which believes in holistic style of management, which believes in servant leadership, which believes in trusteeship management, which believes in holistic style of management. So this new concept of management leadership is coming, and now, earlier we adopt, the better it is for us. The old style of management is not going to work. You yourself may be realizing that your juniors are not listening to you. You will find out for yourself, your juniors are not listening to you. They are no more obedient. There is generation gap, and the parents, you are all parents also, you will be knowing that the children are not listening to you. As parents, you must be realizing children are not listening to you. They are not obedient to you. Rather, some parents, they come. Previously, the children used to be afraid of the parents. Now the parents are afraid of the children. New trend has come. Because they have become so sensitive. If I tell something and if he commits suicide, what will happen? They are afraid to tell something. And they are afraid. Why? They cannot tell. Baba, beta ऐसा करना मत. बेटा चोरी मत करना. बोले पापा आप इनकम टैक्स का इतना चोरी करते हैं, मैं तो केवल 2 रुपए ले रहा हूँ, मैं तो केवल 200 रुपए ले रहा हूँ, आप तो कितना चोरी करते? कैसे कहेंगे? Unless until you practice the values, you cannot thrust upon those values in your children. This is the first hand experience I'm telling. In Bombay, one of our Swamijis, one young boy used to come to our Swamiji. Then his father said, don't go to that Swamiji, he will spoil you. Because he will tell you, be honest, this and that, these things do not work. Old mantra was Satyameva Jayate. The new mantra is Asatyameva Jayate. Old mantra will not work. Satyameva Jayate is a very old mantra. Now in modern society, Asatyameva Jayate. So you have to be very practical and pragmatic. कहने के लिए ठीक है सत्यमेव जयते, पर practice के लिए you must do asatya. This is what he was preaching, and he told that boy not to go to the Swami. After some time, he himself came to that Swami, complaining, मेरा लड़का बिगड़ गया, क्या हो गया? बोले मेरे पॉकेट से चोरी करता है. बोले आपने उसको कहा कि देखो बेटा अभी सत्यमेव जयते नहीं चलेगा, आप ही ने कहा ना, मेरे सामने ही कहा था ना, मेरे पास मत आना, बोला था ना उसको सत्यमेव नहीं चलेगा. तो उसने कहा सत्यमेव नहीं चलेगा, असत्य चलाना है तो why not start practicing with home, start with the home, charity begins at home. So pickpocketing also starts at home. Experiments उसे शुरू कर दिया. अभी आपको बोलते कि नहीं दूसरों को चोरी भले करे, मेरा चोरी न करे. दूसरों के से झूठ बोले जरूर बोले, मेरे से झूठ न बोले. You cannot have this type of. Ultimately, truth shall triumph. Satyameva jayate nanritam. This is what the Upanishads say. That will not go. Temporarily you find that Pandavas are getting defeated. Ultimately Pandavas will win. Ultimately truth shall win. Satyameva jayate. So this is that book, The Power of Ethical Management, where it says the honesty, integrity, and this is the fourth way of management. And here in that sense, our stories of Rama and Mahabharata are full of ethical stories. So ethical management is becoming an in subject. Previously, for 10 years back, ethical management in business used to feel that how can there be a hot ice? How can we practice ethical practices in business? Business means you have to go for unethical practice, otherwise you can't survive. That was the old concept. Now the fourth wave is coming. The fourth wave based on Indian management is Indian ethos. So that is why the fourth wave, when it is coming, we must also, those of you who are managing, who are also in the industry, fortunately you are in a sector which is a public sector, you are not in a private sector where the landlord or the owner of the business, owner of the company is making money or making money with unethical means. There may be some sort of other things, other forces acting, but it is not of directly cheating the customers. It may not be there. But in your position, wherever you are, you can be more efficient, you can be more effective, you can have more job satisfaction if you apply the fourth wave of management, that is holistic style of management, where you convert work into worship, with a lot of peace, lot of happiness. It is not a drudgery. No, I am working for the Lord. I am not working for JNFC. I am not working for any company or my boss. I am working because Lord has put me here. I will try to give my best. That's all. In the process, whatever money I will get, I will be satisfied with that money, and I will try to live happily with that money, without going for consumerism. I am going to talk about consumerism in the evening. Please do come.